During the war, about 3.15 million German soldiers were captured by the Soviets, most of them during the retreat of German troops in 1944-45 and after the German surrender. About 1 in 3 died in captivity. Mortality was especially high in the first years of the war. Due to severe frosts, poor uniforms, and extremely bad nutrition, many prisoners, exhausted by long marches, died already on their way to the camps. Overcrowding and poor hygienic conditions in the camps led to additional casualties. In the following years, the mortality rate decreased significantly. In 1945, it was just 20–25%, but hunger and adverse climatic conditions continued to have their negative impact. Captivity in the Soviet Union means life trauma for many German soldiers. This was aggravated not only by daily hardships and suffering, but also by complete ignorance about the durations of captivity and their chances of survival. The defeat of the German Wehrmacht and the collapse of the political system, in addition, caused many to lose their life orientations and a crisis of attitude. Being in captivity for too long for many only aggravated this condition. Despite their high mortality rate, the treatment of German Poles wasn't based on a strategy of their destruction, nor on the merciless exploitation of their labor. Their outrages and cruelty that undoubtedly took place weren't an official line and were usually severely punished. The difficult conditions in which the German Poles were located were determined to a large extent by the losses caused to the country by the war. The situation in the field of supply remained extremely tense for many years for the Soviet people as well. Poles were used primarily for the restoration of destroyed towns, communication routes, and industrial facilities, as well as in industrial production, logging, and mining. They were used mainly in the areas of the greatest destruction, in Central Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic states. Excerpt from Heinrich Eichenberg's 1947–48 notes on the situation with the supply of German Poles. In general, the problem of the stomach was above all. For a plate of soup or a piece of bread they sold their soul and body. Hunger spoiled people, corrupted them, and turned them into animals. The theft of food from their own comrades had become common. People suffered from hungry hallucinations as in a wild, brutal dream. For hours they could have discussion about food. This insane state led to the fact that they began to collect recipes for cooking dishes and pies. Excerpt from the diary of Hans-Jürgen Otte about correspondence with his family, winter 1946–47. December 9. Letter from Sister Doris. She writes in great detail. Everyone is waiting for my return, especially the football team of Lundberg is waiting for its central striker. Will I ever be able to play football again? December 10. 2 postcards from my father and a letter from my mother. I am so cheered up. Day by day it's getting colder. Today it's already 28 degrees below zero. December 17. Teams for outdoor work didn't go out today, and we will soon return. It's just too cold. 38–40 degrees below zero on the thermometer. January 28. 30 degrees below zero. I spent the whole evening donning my gloves. It's vital right now. January 29. Boundless by very cold. In Sverdlovsk they say 45 degrees. Save us God from such frost. January 30. Didn't work again due to frost. Only some teams, masons, mechanics, pavers, went to work. Special chapter in the history of German Poles is the National Committee Free Germany. It was created on July 12, 1943, in the presence of Soviet representatives by German emigrants and Poles in Krasnogorsk near Moscow. The goal of the National Committee was to end the war and overthrow the Nazi regime. With the help of leaflets, newspapers, and radio broadcasts, they tried to convince German soldiers of their need to either join the resistance or desert. As an organization of Wehrmacht officers, in September 1943, the Union of German Officers was also created under the chairmanship of General Walter von Seydlitz. The activities of the National Committee and the Union of German Officers were coordinated with the Soviet leadership, which long time ago tried to organize political training and use Poles for propaganda purposes. The creation and activities of the National Committee and the Union of German Officers were and still are the subject of discussion. While someone talks about rejection of war, readiness for self-criticism, and a desire to start over, others declare betrayal of the motherland, oblivion of duty, and political opportunism. The work of former Nazis of the USSR was later overgrown with myths. 2- and 3-story houses in Moscow and Leningrad began to be called German. They're still considered incredibly comfortable and warm. After all, as many are sure, the Germans built on their conscience. However, there are nuances. The buildings were built according to the designs of Soviet architects and from materials of not the best quality. There were simply no others after the war. But the prisoners themselves, by hook or by crook, tried to get to the construction site. There was a bigger ration there, and the regime of detention wasn't very strict. Therefore, even those who have never worked as masons, plasterers, roofers, assured that they masterfully own the profession. Of course, the conditions of detention in the USSR were far from sanatorium. Researchers claim that there were cases of cannibalism in the camps. The prisoners took away each other's food, knocked out gold teeth. These trophies could be exchanged for cigarettes. In January of the 45th, a major uprising took place in the camp near Minsk. The prisoners were dissatisfied with their meager food. They barricaded themselves in the barracks and took the guards hostage. As a result, more than 100 prisoners were killed. The building had to be stormed. In the 50s, Pals became the subject of political bargaining. The USSR wanted to establish diplomatic relations with Germany. The government of West Germany demanded, in exchange for the release of all former soldiers and officers of the Third Reich. In the autumn of the 55th, the last captured Germans left the Soviet Union.